Hi, everyone. My name is Carrie Wolpink, and I'm a licensed professional counselor and clinical supervisor here at Trillium Family Services. Today, I'm going to go over the impact of stress in our life and introduce some concepts to give you a foundation to better understand what your body and mind are going through. And with this awareness, hopefully encourage change and growth. Currently, we are being overwhelmed by so many different life-changing events, from the pandemic, political events, social justice, murder hornets, dust storm, basically anything and everything 2020 is throwing at us. Our current situation and individual experiences make it different and uniquely challenging for each of us. The way we respond is impacted by our personal history, our physical and mental health journeys, our relationships, our faith, and our resilience. I want to spend some time defining stress and anxiety and look at what our brain is doing right now. So let's take a look at stress. Stress is our body's response to an external demand or meaningful event or thought placed upon us. Our brain begins to send out hormones, and our body responds by having our heart rate increase. We take deeper breaths, and our senses are heightened. We are ready to survive. We all experience stress, but stress often presents differently for each of us. Here are some common stressors and what it might look, or common symptoms of stress and what it might look like in our life. Exhaustion, fatigue, low energy, brain fog, difficulty falling or staying asleep, headaches, neck tension, lower appetite or even overeating, crying, withdrawing from our friends, increased use of alcohol, drugs, or our medication. What I have found is that in our society, we use stress as a catch-all phrase to describe being overwhelmed. I'm just so stressed, I can't do it. Or like, I'm having such a stressful day. We also view stress as bad. We are constantly hearing 10 steps to reduce your stress, how to live a stress-free life. But the reality is that stress is essential. It's inevitable, and it can be beneficial when it's in short bursts and we recognize the emotions that are caused by the demand, event, or threat. Stress has helped us survive saber-toothed tigers, pass that math test, prep for that big work presentation. And what we find is that we're really good at handling that acute stress that doesn't last very long. But currently, our stressful events are lasting a lot longer. In fact, for many of us, they've increased, changed, multiplied, and have become constant. And the stress is becoming the new normal for us. And the truth is, we're not able to continue to maintain this level of stress and thrive as this pandemic continues, as we're asked to be physically distant, and social media and news outlets continue to give us a top 10 list of high stressful events today. What begins to happen is we develop chronic stress. And this is when our bodies respond to stress over and over and over, and it takes its toll. Our bodies begin to feel that wear and tear, and we can have long-term impacts on our heart, our blood pressure, and our immunity from this wear and tear and constant stress. So often, stress doesn't come alone. And with stress, often comes its best friend, anxiety. If stress is the body's reaction to what happens immediately, anxiety is the response to stress that doesn't happen immediately. It often occurs when we begin to think about the event that is causing us stress. Anxiety and stress present with overlapping symptoms, such as sleep, the struggles to focus, muscle tension, fatigue, and irritability. Anxiety, however, does not go away after the stress has resolved, and it often looks like persistent worries. Anxiety has 3 components. The first one is emotional. Emotional is the fear, sadness, and nervousness. The second one is the physiological component. This is the body response, which I was talking about, often presents very similar to our stress response. And the final one is cognitive. This is that worried and obsessive thoughts that are on your mind throughout the day. This is that rumination. So if you're anything like me, you've been feeling more stress and anxiety lately. And for many of us, our brains are really having to be on high alert because for the past year before this pandemic, our brains were on autopilot. We had a set routine that was really predictable. And every day we did these little things that we didn't even think of, but it sent a message to our brain saying, you're safe. We saw people every day and our brain said, hey, our pack is out here. They're doing things too, so we're safe. And now we're separated from our pack often. With all of these changes that are happening in our world, our brain is working overtime to assess if we are safe and we're okay. As a clinician and a mom, I feel it's important for us to have an understanding of how our brain is responding to the world around us. I really love the work of Daniel Siegel because he makes it so relatable and easy to understand that my 3-year-old daughter and my 90-year-old grandma can understand how their brain is working and responding to these life events and stress. I really encourage you guys, if any of you are interested in understanding this more and going a little more in depth, to look up his trainings, check out his videos, and read a couple of Daniel Siegel's books. So Daniel Siegel has provided a really simple visual aid for our brain, naming it the upstairs and the downstairs brain. Our brains are constantly working to balance our life responses and to navigate these ups and downs that our brain is going through. The upstairs brain allows us to think before we act, make decisions, control our emotions and our body, focus, concentrate, be self-aware, and have empathy. And our downstairs brain allows us to act before we think. This is our survival brain in here. This is our body functions. This is our fight, flight, and flee response. And with all of these current life events and stresses that are happening, our brain is spending a lot of time in that downstairs trying to interpret all these threats. Our amygdala is activated and it's on high alert. And we're constantly assessing if these activities, people, places, things are safe or unsafe. And our brain is just pumping our body with hormones based off the assessment that our brain is making. And it's helping us know how to respond and how to survive. Now, as our brain is assessing and interpreting all of these current stressors, I know for me personally, I've been more irritable, exhausted, and quicker to become upset. I've been kicked out of my window of tolerance so many times over the last few months. The window of tolerance is a term coined by Daniel Siegel to give us an idea of when our brain is in a balanced and calm state of mind. When we are in this space, we can deal with what is happening in our life and it doesn't bother you as much. We're able to self-regulate and self-soothe when we're in this window of tolerance. This is the ideal place to be. Here we're able to take time to try and understand the everyday stressors that are happening to us and react in a healthy way. We are using our upstairs brain to process and integrate information so we feel safe. What we have found is that this window of tolerance is different sizes for everyone, depending on what is currently going on in your life or what has happened to you. For someone who's experienced trauma and has been under chronic stress, their window of tolerance is going to be smaller, which means there's a reduced ability to tolerate intense emotions and stressors and remain in control. For us, we may be seeing our window of tolerance shrink, just like I said, as stressors increase and also expand as we begin to engage in self-care. When stressors begin to build or trauma occurs, we are pushed out of the window of tolerance. We become dysregulated and have increased emotions of anxiety, irritability, and exhaustions. And as stressors continue to build and we aren't able to apply skills to stay in our window of tolerance, we begin to lose control. Our downstairs brain takes over and we are in a survival mode. We are in fight, fight, or freeze. When this happens, our downstairs brain is releasing a flood of stress hormones, including adrenaline and cortisol, that floods our bodies with energy and prepares us to respond to threat. Our heart beats faster, our breath quickens, our blood pressure rises, and our senses become sharper. Like I said earlier, we are ready to survive. These physical changes prepare us to fight, flight, flee from the danger. But in today's world, we're not running away from that saber-toothed tiger. So fight, flight, and freeze look a little bit different. Fight and flight look like hyperarousal, where we become hypervigilant. We are overwhelmed with our emotions and our mind is racing or gets stuck. And it makes it really difficult to sleep, to concentrate, eat, manage our emotion. And it reaches intense level. It can look like anger outbursts, tantrums, and hostility. Freeze in today's world looks like a hypoarousal, where we become numb, we shut down, we withdraw, and we have very little energy, not able to think really well. We have those feelings of depression and sadness. And this can also impact our eating and sleep patterns as you struggle to process and express the emotions. So, what can we do? The first step is awareness. I hope that this brief introduction to these concepts have motivated you to reflect on how you're feeling and navigating the events in your world. By doing so, we begin to increase our daily awareness of stress, anxiety, and trauma, and other emotions. As awareness increases, it becomes key to being able to stay in control and respond before we react. The other thing we can do is begin to build resilience. And the final thing is self-care. And this is when we increase our awareness, we allow ourselves time to proactively create plans to take care of ourselves to better be prepared for life events. Thank you for joining me today. Please take care of yourself and take some time to look at the other Trillium videos available to support your growth and change.